me that this is the first year that the winners of all 3 industry awards presented here at the Craft Brewers Conference happen to be the founders of breweries. Not only that, but they've all been homebrewers. In fact, there's kind of a homebrewing current emerging, and I know that's no surprise to any of us. They have all served our industry in many ways. In fact, we all make better beer and do business in a climate more salubrious due to the examples and the ongoing efforts of these 3 pillars of our collective community. The FX Matt Award. Wait a minute. The FX Matt Award is named for FX Matt, who was at the helm of the FX Matt Brewing Company and Nick's brother, our chairman's brother, and who, long before most of us were involved in this industry, was an advocate for the issues that affect us all, legislative and in terms of regulation, guardianship. It's awarded by the BA to a person who has, by their ongoing efforts, served our interests in legislative and regulatory arenas. This year's designee of the FX Matt Defense of the Industry Award preceded his career in brewing with one in journalism. As a correspondent for the Associated Press, he covered stories in the Middle East and was on hand and on assignment at the assassination of Anwar al-Sadat in Cairo in 1981. Living in Beirut while working for the AP took its toll on both him and his family, and in the mid-'80s they moved back to the States, settling in Park Slope, Brooklyn. While living in Saudi Arabia and in Syria, our designee had taken up home brewing, flouting local law in the interest of actually being able to get a beer. Once home, his enthusiasm took hold. Perhaps it was the stifling security of a regular paycheck and the absence of mortar shelling that caused him to harangue his neighbor Tom Potter into beginning a brewing enterprise. But in any event, it was in 1987 that the Brooklyn Brewery was founded. At first producing its beer at the FX Matt Brewing Company, FX, of course, for whom this award is named, in Utica, New York. In order to streamline delivery of the beer, and no doubt because life wasn't complicated enough already, they also founded their own distributor, the Craft Brewers Guild, which before long carried many other brands beside their own. In 1994, Garrett Oliver came on board as brewmaster. In 1996, Brooklyn opened its own brewery in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Most of the Brooklyn Brewery's history is well known: the beers, the awards, the overarching fashion sense. And in addition to overseeing the continual expansion of the brewery, Steve, and since I mentioned Garrett, I really should mention Steve by name at this point, has been enormously active in the issues that affect us all. On the boards of directors of the BAA and the Brewers Association, where he served as chairman for 2 years, and more recently on the board of the Beer Institute. Through his work with the Beer Institute, and in the time since leaving its board, Steve has carried our various messages to the New York State Legislature and to the United States Congress, where he recently testified on franchise law relief for small brewers, on self-distribution and labeling, and on keeping the 3-tier system less convoluted than it might be should its determinations fall to the whims of all our 50 states. Steve is a man of words, both written and spoken. His work as a journalist honed skills which he brought back in writing Beer School with Tom Potter about the very entertaining travails of his life in the brewing business. He's also a mean, and I really do mean mean, Scrabble player. You definitely want him as your partner, I know. And fortunately, we all have him as our partner. This year's winner of the FX Matt Defense of the Industry Award is Steve Hindy of Brooklyn Brewing.
Thank you very much. You know, it's really a great time to be a craft brewer. And it's a great time to be a small brewer. But I want to remind you all that it has not always been great to be a small brewer. And it might not always be great to be a small brewer. You know, in the 70s and 80s, the BAA, the Old Brewers Association of America, meetings were kind of grim. Every year there were fewer members. And actually, stalwarts like FX Matt and Bill Smolowitz from the Lion Brewery, Joe Ortley family, Warren Marty, Ted Marty's dad, Fred Huber, they kind of held things together through some very hard times. The only craft brewer on the board in the early 80s was Fritz Maytag. I think Ken Grossman also joined shortly after that. And of course, at that time, the term craft brewer didn't exist. These are the guys, this is a generation that got the federal government to approve the small brewers tax break, for under 60,000 barrels, which I think is largely responsible for the success of all of our businesses. Now and actually that would never have happened but for the efforts of a guy named Henry King, who was head of the U.S. Brewers Association years ago, and had a very close personal relationship with August Bush III. And it was that relationship that actually led to the approval of the tax break that we all enjoy today. And now we're working to improve that tax break, to take it from $7 to $3.50 with this H.R. 4278. It's a grassroots initiative. I know many of you are involved in it. And I think the Brewers Association is in a very strong position with this. And it's getting stronger. And we're no longer dependent on August Bush III to approve or not approve this kind of change. But I think we must be mindful of the power of our industry big brothers, and also our industry partners, the wholesalers. I think many of you here in this room have been involved in state political issues where your initiative got mysteriously busted somewhere in the legislative process. Well, that could happen to us with H.R. 4278. We have to be respectful of our industry partners to ensure it doesn't happen. Disunity in the beer industry is bad for beer. And I know the leadership of NBWA is here today, and I hope they're listening to this. There are talks underway now between the Beer Institute and NBWA about the Ledge Conference coming up in a couple of weeks in Washington. For the last 14 or 15 years, the Ledge Conference has been a joint conference of brewers and distributors. There's a big danger this year with the kind of initiatives that NBWA is putting forward that the brewers are not going to attend the conference. And I think that is a very big danger for the industry, because if you've got the wholesalers going this way with their agenda and the brewers going this way, what is Congress to make of our industry? And I'm very much concerned about that. And a few years ago when we merged and created BA, we asked you all to get involved with our work in committees and other works of the association. And I congratulate you on having done that. The committee participations at an all-time high, and we want more people involved. I thank you for that, and I thank you for this award. And I'll tell you, FX would be proud.